Guys, it's a hummingbird moth. My gosh. A little hummingbird moth. That is so cool. Hey garden friends, and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Caitlin. I'm gardening in Zone 6B, Southwest Missouri. And we're getting to the end of the month of July, so what better time than to take a garden tour, see how the garden's been this last month. I feel like it's a bit of the good, the bad, and the ugly. Here in Zone 6B, the month of July is very similar to the month of August. It starts to get really hot, really muggy, and kind of uncomfortable to be outside. In fact, I'm filming right now like 7 p.m. because it's been massive heat waves every day this week. Have hardly been able to spend any time out here during the daytime. Anytime I do come out, it has to be early morning, late in the evening. The mosquitoes are bad. It's just been, it's hit that point in the summer where I almost don't want to come outside. But the garden still needs tending to. Despite the weather, I still am harvesting some things. I have other things that just kind of fizzled out this year. Really disappointed in my tomatoes. I've been hit by vine borer, squash bugs. So I've lost a number of squash plants, but we still have some days left in the growing season, so I can still start another round of some of that, and pulled out some other things that have just started to die back. But like I said, we've got time to plant some more things. So I'm not giving up yet, but it certainly isn't the most enjoyable part of gardening in the summer. This heat, August into September, I think the weather's going to start cooling off and it'll be a lot more enjoyable. Until then, I'm doing my best to maintain the garden. But let's go ahead and take a look at what the garden looks like right now. And we can talk a little bit about, like I said, the good, the bad, and the ugly elements of the summer garden in July. So we'll start off here under the arch trellis. As you can see, I've got a lot of plants that have really taken off. But at the same time, you can see a lot of damaged leaves. This is a pumpkin, not very big. Another kind of disappointment here. I'm pretty sure it got hit with both squash bugs and vine borer. But I do still have my long beans are going here, which is great. They started picking back up. It was really challenging in the month of early July. Late June and early July, we had so much rain. It was raining like every single day. And you think, that's great. Hardly had to use my irrigation. But because of the amount of rain we were getting, a lot of the plants were not putting on flowers like they should have. The temperatures were a little bit cooler, so things like squash weren't producing. Tomatoes, we'll take a look at those. They've been a hot mess this summer. And my long beans just kind of fizzled out. They put on in the month of June, and then they kind of stopped. But just in the last about week and a half, they've started to put on some more blooms, which is exciting. I was getting a little worried there that we weren't going to have much in the way of long beans, but they're actually putting on. Like I said, I've got some plants over here that are starting to die back because of pest pressure. So I'll be picking this pumpkin soon, probably for decoration. Can't imagine I'll be baking any pumpkin pies with this one. And then my loofah plant, this is my first year growing loofah, and it's taken off and it's put on a lot of duds. So I don't know if they're just not getting pollinated or what, but it hasn't actually started producing gourds. So that's kind of disappointing. So here's a close-up of the loofah plant. You can see here, none of these have really gotten pollinated. Going back to just the amount of rain that we've had, I think has thrown the pollinators off as well. So very frustrating. This plant here I thought was a autumn squash. Turned out, because I didn't label, was a cucumber. So this is a lemon cucumber. It's starting to get hit with just kind of, I don't know if it's powdery mildew or blight or what, but I've already cut off a lot of the leaves, tried to clean it up earlier this week. We'll see how long it holds on. There's still some fruit that's being produced, so we'll see. And then I do have another pumpkin back here that's decent sized pumpkin. It's still hanging on, still looks healthy, although some of the leaves down here are starting to look a little ragged and worse for wear. This is that lemon cucumber variety, so these will get a little bit bigger. You can kind of see one down here. It's starting to size up a little bit. They'll get about that big, but I definitely thought this was a autumn squash until it took off. So another reason to try to label your plants. Here's that decent sized pie pumpkin. Hoping it holds on and doesn't get attacked by pests. You can see here the fronts of my beds have been cleared out. I went ahead and chopped down a lot of the kale that had previously been planted in these grow bags, as well as in these horizontal pots, just because they were really spent. I did leave some of the kale here just that looked a little bit healthy. I planted out some Swiss chard in here, and then I'm still trying to figure out what to do with some of these other spaces for kind of a second wave of planting. And you can see down here, this is a round zucchini. I don't know if it's really gonna hold on much longer, because if we take a look, you can kind of see this vine has been completely decimated. I guarantee you there's a vine borer in there somewhere, so, which is too bad. I think I only got like one zucchini off that plant. And then same with this zucchini plant here. It's just now starting to pick back up. Previously, I only got one zucchini off of it as well. Again, just, I don't know, the squash has been really pretty sad, pretty disappointed this year in my squash plants. And I'm hoping to, I started some more seeds, so hopefully we'll have another round. This is my tomato row. I've got these tomatoes are trellised on a cattle panel here. If you watched my previous garden tours, you know I was having some difficulty with just, again, the amount of rain we had this year, causing a lot of blight problems. And honestly, it's kind of another disappointment this year. I'd say this is probably the ugly part of summer for me, for sure. This one's doing pretty good. This guy's really taken off. I'm actually shocked to see fruit, so that's exciting. That's new. That wasn't there a few days ago. So hopeful that with the drier weather we've been having, even though the temperatures have been up in the upper 90s, that maybe we'll at least see some tomato production. But you can see here, we've got some of these leaves are diseased. I've done a lot of pruning on a lot of these, and you can see it more here on this version. But this is a brandywine variety. I had a second brandywine planted here, but it's stunted, so I bought a kind of a on sale tomato at a garden center. I don't even remember the variety at this moment. It was not a Better Boy, but it was something along those lines. It's a slicer, and I went ahead and kind of rescued it, so to speak. You could see it was all gnarled and dying when I got it at the garden center for discount. And it's come back, so we'll see if this actually produces. But previously I had another brandywine that had started from seed, but like I said, it was stunted, so I pulled it. I've got a couple of striped Roma plants here. This is the first I've seen a fruit production of it, and we're in the late July, so it's just, again, mentioning how poor the production has been with tomatoes. I'd be really curious if anyone else is having struggles with that. If you've experienced a lot of rain this season, are your tomatoes doing just as poorly as mine, or maybe there's something wrong with my soil? I don't know. All I know is barely any flower production. I'm seeing some now, but like I said, with all our rain, we barely had any. And then we've got 2 more tomatoes here. These are the Brad's Atomic Grape. Again, we've got some severely dying leaves, just completely hit with blight, maybe even fungus. I'm not really sure what's going on with them. We've got some baby tomatoes there. The other problem that's been plaguing my tomatoes this year have been the squirrels. So any unripe tomatoes, they've been coming and stealing them. That's why you'll see these really colorful pinwheels I put up. Supposedly they're squirrel deterrents. We'll see. I also have bagged some of the other tomatoes, although the bags have not been working as well as I'd hoped. In fact, you can see here, there's a hole now. So it's basically just a takeout bag for the squirrels to come and feast upon my tomatoes. So really disappointed in the squirrel pressure with my tomatoes, and my tomatoes aren't producing fast enough to outpace the squirrels. So speaking of this variety that's got the bags on it, these are supposed to be the Sun Gold cherry tomatoes, and they were delicious when I was able to pick them, and they were producing before squirrels and weather got to them. So overall, very, very disappointed in my tomatoes. So to say that I've been disappointed with my tomatoes this year, it feels like almost an understatement. Tomatoes are one of those things every gardener, I think almost every gardener looks forward to growing. I've got so many varieties. Last year we were swimming in tomatoes, and this year they just, I don't know, it's just a bad year for tomatoes. But here's a really nice cluster. Like I said, if the squirrels can keep off of these and these can actually ripen, that would be amazing, because I haven't had any cherry tomatoes in weeks. On the end here, I have some butternut squash. Again, we don't even see any on the vine that are waiting to ripen up. I don't even know if some of these flowers are going to be female flowers. Again, I feel like I've just had a lot of male flowers on my squash plants, and so nothing is getting fertilized, no fruit. I don't know, again, if that's an issue with the rain or what, but another disappointment. On the backside of my long bed here, 4 by 16 foot bed, we have a number of basil plants. So I've got some cinnamon basil, some lemon basil. In between my tomato plants, I've got some of the Tulsi basil. I've also got some Genovese planted out in different areas as well. You can see one of those bags squirrels got into. So much for that. Pinwheel, you're not doing your job. And then we've got some remnants of some onions. These are red onions that have been planted out. I've actually been picking these as I need them. I think I could probably come in and go ahead and pick them. The thing with the onions is usually wait for the tops to flop over. These aren't very big. I had never planted onions before, so this is my first year. It's kind of an experiment, and so I will have to take some notes to see what I could do differently to make bigger bulbs. So I've got some of these left in the ground here. I've got some okra, so that's what we see here. This is an okra variety, as well as this one. There's some more okra, and then I had planted out a bunch of okra after I harvested out my garlic. So I do have 2 different varieties of okra. Most of it is the Clemson spineless, but I believe this one or this one, maybe both of them, we might have there's another variety I planted called Star of David, the Star of David variety, which is a little bit more distinct. When you cut into it, they look like little stars. So also very good. Looking forward to that. And then I did have some volunteer tomato plants pop up from last year, so I've gone ahead and staked these for now. I'm gonna have to get some bigger stakes. You can see one here as well. Have no clue what variety of tomatoes these are, but at this point, my tomato game has been so off this year. I'm letting these guys grow in, and hopefully maybe they'll give me the harvest of tomatoes that I am so lacking. Down here, again, we have our Clemson spineless, and ochre is a heat-loving plant, so these should start shooting up as the days get really, really warm. You can see some of them are getting pestered by pests, so I'll have to keep an eye on that. And then I've got just some miscellaneous green onion bunches here at the end. Now previously I did have planted on the front end a bunch of bush beans. They were starting to tap out for me. So what I'm going to do is I am going to plant a new round of bush beans in this bed on the front. I just haven't gotten to that yet. This is a 4x8 bed. This bed previously had a bunch of garlic in it, and I harvested that a few weeks ago. In its place, I planted out some quick maturing corn, the ambrosia variety, and you can see here it's starting to germinate. I did put a couple in each spot, so once these get a little bit taller, I will prune back down to just one. Similar to this bed, I used to have some bush beans in the front. I will be planting out some more bush beans as well. And in fact, I might, once the corn gets a little bit taller, I might plant out some black-eyed peas or a cowpea. They're considered a whole bean variety, which would climb. And the idea would be to do kind of a Three Sisters method with the beans and the corn. Let the corn be the stalk that the beans would climb up. And then in this bed already, I had a melon. This is either the petite, I forgot this last month too, petite Renoir? No, I did it again, it's not Renoir. Either the Minnesota midget or the petite something or other. Anyways, they're basically single serve melons, similar to cantaloupe. This has been sprawling out, but again, no actual fruit, so not sure what's going on here. I feel like everything's just dying on me. This used to have a squash plant. It got hit with vine borer. I had to pull it out, so I'll need to plant some more. I do have another squash plant right there on the back side, and it's not very big, but so far it looks pretty healthy, so we'll let it go. And this is my big 6x6 bed. Previously, this bed had a bunch of carrots in it. And if you watched my last video, I harvested out almost all the carrots. There's actually a couple that have gone to flower, which I'm saving for seed. But this bed right now is pretty empty. There's a couple of carrots that either germinated or got lost and I didn't pick them. Previously, I did have a pumpkin plant here. It completely died back on me. There was a pumpkin that was orange and decent size. I picked it, and then turns out there was a vine borer in it, so I'd throw it out. And such is my luck this year with all the squash. On the ends, though, we've got some miscellaneous leeks. We got some green onion that's just massive right now. Some French marigolds. I've got, I think this might be some more Tulsi basil that seeded itself over here. I do have another melon, which actually has something growing, so that's exciting, I guess. We'll see if this actually forms correctly. Got some grass. I'm really good at growing grass this year. I have not had a chance to come out and weed my beds like I should because the weather's been so hot. I feel like I'm getting attacked by a butterfly right now. But yeah, you can see here's another carrot that probably needs to be pulled. It's a baby. We're gonna go ahead and compost that guy. Okay, but I do have, you can see here, a couple melons, some more melons. Again, in one of the two varieties I planted. This is actually the carrot that has gone flower. Very pretty flowers. Pollinators really like these. So I'm going to let this go to seed so I can save seeds. This is dill that I need to harvest. This was dill I let go to seed. I've got another pumpkin plant here. You can see this is barely hanging on. I do have a pumpkin that I'm letting hopefully ripen up before I pull this out. I got some more leeks here as well, and some more green onions. And then, like I said, this bed's pretty empty. I will probably try to come in and amend the soil, and then I'm not sure what I'm going to plant here for now. This bed size isn't great to harvest out of, so anything I do plant, I will probably try to put something that will last for a while and then will need to be picked later. In the middle here is a big garlic chives. So in these pots here are my spicy peppers. I am growing several different varieties. These first two pots here are Megatron jalapenos, which I just picked them yesterday, so there aren't any on here right now. And that is one good thing about this year, is my peppers are doing really awesome. So I guess there's a positive. Behind it here we do have a poblano. So this tall guy here is poblano. We have another poblano here. You can see some really nice poblanos sizing up. And then, let's see, we've got behind it, we've got a whole bunch of shishito peppers. So those are our favorite peppers. You can see them here. Been picking a lot of those off. Here's the backside. Here's the backside of my shishitos. You can see these are very, very productive plants. I can come out here every few days and just get a bowl, which is really great. We really enjoy these. I'm also growing, first time this year, some Anaheims. So this is an example. They do get a little bit bigger. I've been picking and cooking with those. Here's a really nice Anaheim right here. But as you can see, some of these guys, despite watering these pots every day, I'm going to have to come out here multiple times because these leaves are very wilty. Here you can see this pumpkin vine completely dying. But I do have this pumpkin here, so I'm hoping maybe if I let it just continue to orange up, I can come out here and pick it in the next day or two. Hate to let it go to waste. Hopefully it's not like my other one that had a vine borer in it. Something that's a little new from last time, this space back here was a bed of sunflowers, and then we had a giant storm come in and knock out a lot of the sunflowers. This one actually got pinched off at the top, but as you can see, I've got some side shoots that are, well, they looked pretty a couple days ago, but I still left them. It'll reseed itself, which is kind of fun. And then I did go ahead and mulch. So we got a chip drop, so I went ahead and mulched this space. And I got some 15-gallon grow bags. This one in particular, which isn't looking so hot, but has basil. And then I planted out some more salad greens, which you can see the soil is just absolutely dry because of the hot temperatures. I need to come out and water this. And then, of course, I still have my stork pot, a round pot that's just full of herbs. We've got some chives. We've got some Greek oregano, sweet alyssum flowers in here. Kind of a mess. A lot of grass in here too. But it does well on its own. Doesn't need a lot of love. Here's another pretty clear bed. This used to be my potato patch. I used to have some beans here. Pulled all my beans out the other day. We'll be doing some more planting of bush beans. But I did start some yellow squash, hoping for another round of actual squash plants that don't get decimated by squash bug or vine borer. So fingers crossed, but that's what we see here. On the other side of my squash plants here, I have some sweet peppers. So I do have a chocolate candy cane variegated sweet pepper, which we see here. I don't actually see any peppers currently on it. We do have a couple of bell peppers. We've got some teeny tiny bells growing. And then we have some sweet bananas, which I've been picking off of as well. So there's not a whole lot to see currently. And then on the other side of my peppers are some of the newer bush beans that I planted. You can kind of see how some of the leaves are starting to fade and die a little bit. These were planted later than the ones that I recently pulled out, but the ones I pulled out were like this, but like way far gone, which is why I pulled them out, and I'm gonna start a new batch of them soon. And then this is my experimental section. Flowers this year. I decided to take this kind of strip next to the wood fence here, plant some zinnias and cosmos. These have actually surprisingly taken off now that the weather's getting really warm, so that's been a positive. You know, I've been reflecting on a lot of the disappointments and negatives, but look how beautiful these zinnias have really turned out. Pink ones are really lovely. So these are just the, I think are the giant California blend of zinnia. So I need to come out here and cut some and put in a vase for inside the house. And my cosmos have been kind of died back, but then I transplanted some of my petunias over here too, so it looks really nice. Now, I did buy a metal bed to make the section raised garden, so the plan is for this fall is I'm going to put this bed, it's a 2x8, and I'm going to put it along here once these kind of flowers peter out, and I'll be planting out my cabbages. And so I already have some cabbages started inside under some grow lights, and those will be ready to be put into the ground maybe late August for the fall garden. So stay tuned. That will probably be transformed next month, so we'll might be saying goodbye to these flowers sooner than later. Something else that's new since last month are the additional grow bags here. So similar to the one that we looked at earlier, it was an order of 5. I got them from Epic Gardening. These are 15-gallon grow bags, and I went ahead and placed some basil in each of them. We really like the Genovese basil for a number of recipes, so I started some more basil, planted those out. And then, well, hey Banjo, you want to say hi? Whoa! And then with the basil, I have no idea if it's going to work. In fact, I might have to come in and replant, but I was going to plant 4 corn in each bag. So you can see some of it's germinated, but some of it hasn't. So I do need to come back and maybe replant where I'm missing. Corn is one of those things that if you can grow it in a block, it's gonna do a lot better at fertilizing the kernels. So I thought maybe a bag of 4 would be good. Maybe they're too close together. Who knows? Very much kind of a gamble. Hey, Juniper, you want to say hi? Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh. Here's another ugly bit of summer. My tomatillo plants are desperately in need of water. Again, I'm coming out here and watering these pots deeply every day, but it's just been so insanely dry. That's the downside of growing things in pots, is you really have to be on top of watering, and it's really hard to do when it's like 90 plus degrees. The other downside about these tomatillos, so I did have some great harvest with them at the end of June, and then the squirrels came because they came for everything, and they discovered they also like tomatillos. So that's been a constant battle of losing my tomatillos to the squirrels. Same with these Romas that we see here. I haven't picked a Roma off these in weeks. The green ones that I did have are mysteriously missing. Thank you, squirrels. So the squirrels have come, they've taken my green fruit, but these guys are putting on some more flowers again now that it's warming up. I do have a new Supremo here. I do need to stake this to get it on support. I'm happy to see got some more tomatoes coming in. So here's hoping we get some more Romas. The squirrels, man, they have been a pain in my butt this summer. So any recommendations for squirrel proofing your garden, let me know. So in this bed here, I do have some remnants of my spring kale. You can see some of this is also very, very spent, but I'm going to try to hold on to this a little bit longer. I do have another Roma plant here. I've got some lettuce tucked in the shade here. Lettuce does tend to bolt in the summertime with the heat, but if you can kind of protect it with shade, it's gonna do a little bit better. So hoping that this isn't too bitter. I need to come in and pick some of these leaves. And then I've got some leeks in here, some more French marigolds, and then some random peppers. So this is one of my Megatron jalapenos. So while I didn't have any to show you earlier, but these are really nice sized jalapenos, really chunky boys. And then over here it looks like this is a mystery, but it looks like another Anaheim. So I need to come out here and pick these. In this other bed, I do have a very robust squash plant. I think this is zucchini. This one really took off. Hasn't produced any fruit yet, I don't think, if I can get under here and see what's going on. But I'm very hopeful, unless it gets hit by something. But it's really loving this spot right here. And then in this bed too, so last month I had some red acre cabbage. I did get that harvested last week, and you can see I'm picking grass because, once again, very good at growing grass in my garden. But what I've done now is, in the place of the cabbages, I have planted some micro dwarf tomatoes. These are the orange hat tomatoes. They only get to be about this big, but they make tiny orange cherry tomatoes, and they're really yummy. And then there's these sad pots. So we had some ground cherries here. Honestly, I think I need to just pull these guys out of their misery. And they've got a little bit of fruit. Here's another plant that the squirrels decimated. I have since put a squirrel deterrent here in the hopes to help, but I think it might be too late now. These are supposed to be Chinese lantern flowers. They've never flowered for me. I don't know why, but that's okay. They're green. I'll take it. Got a remnant of a petunia here. But yeah, these I think are probably spent. So I'll probably be pulling these out in the next couple weeks, figuring out what to plant in its place. That's been the really tricky part, is figuring out what to plant where I'm pulling things. So if you have any suggestions, feel free to leave them down in the comments below. Here is my cucumber wall. It's massive, much larger than I think I would have intended it to be. Once upon a time, there used to be a cherry tomato plant. In fact, there's a cage in here somewhere. I neglected to prune any of this, and so kind of just let it go. You can see that my tomato plant is fighting. So consider this a matchup in the ring, right? Cucumber versus tomato. Who's going to win? My vote is on the tomato plant because I think the cucumber is going to get, I think it's going to get diseased first, but we'll see. Yeah, it'll be an experiment. Surprisingly, we're still producing a lot of things. So this is a lemon cucumber right here. It's about how big they get. Another one back here. That one's pretty big. Let's see if we have any other goodies. There's several lemon cucumbers. And then there's another variety of cucumber, the Space Master 80, I think is what it's called. I have some that grew on the other side of the grate, so I can't even reach them. It's kind of funny. In fact, I've got a massive one back there I can't get to. This is what happens when you don't come out here for a few days. Things get neglected. But you can see a lot of this foliage is starting to yellow and get kind of this speckled look. That is going to be powdery mildew, which is, once it sets in, it kind of just eats up the plant and eventually it just dies. So chances are these are going to die real quick. I probably should do myself a favor and just go ahead and rip them out and plant another round of cucumber. I do still have time to do that, so that's probably a good idea. I'll probably try to do that in the next week. And then here's my crazy, overgrown, very weedy flower patch. As you can tell, I never got in here to remulch it like I had hoped. Instead, I just have a sea of grass. Oh wow, that is a massive volunteer holy basil. So that's interesting. That's still there. I'm pretty sure that's a weed. I thought that was a flower, but I just never pulled it. But I do have bachelor buttons. some calendula. Calendula is doing well. I've got a very tall thing of grass. Pretty sure that's what that is. Actually, no, that isn't grass. That's coming out of my, I have another garlic chives plant, so it's flowering. That's interesting. Never seen that before. Some very tall cosmos. Something that's vining. I didn't plant that. I have no idea what that is. So this is just the wild and free portion of my garden that desperately needs some assistance and TLC. I work from home and my office is right here, and I spend my days looking out this window and telling myself I need to come out here and weed, and then I never do. So do what I say, not what I do. If you're new to gardening or even a veteran gardener, you should probably think about weeding your spaces. Last, and sadly probably my least productive space of the summer, is our little deck space here. My parsley plant is still going strong here. So yeah, juniper, thank you. It's doing well, so I do come out and I'll pick it for different recipes. Mint is doing really well. It's what I have right here. And I've got a couple patio variety tomatoes. These are getting hit really hard by squirrels. I actually have some fruit here that I could pick. Hooray. I'll have to pick some of those. The bags were a great idea in theory, but then it turns out they just kind of chew them off. So I might as well just, I don't know. I think the bags would be really good maybe for something like something else that maybe squirrels wouldn't eat as much. Maybe like a squash, or I don't know. Anyways, and then the strawberry tower. Again, look at these leaves, need to be cleaned up. All the rain has been a mess for this guy. So definitely need to come out and do some garden chores. Let's talk a little bit about the good, the bad, and the ugly. I know we talked a little bit about it in the actual tour, but I really feel like the month of June was so hopeful, and the month of July just kind of hit me like a bag of bricks. A lot of things I wasn't expecting to happen. I wasn't expecting my tomato plants to not produce like they have in the past. So that was unusual. Trying to pivot by taking care of those volunteers and just trying to prune up as much as possible in the hopes that maybe I'll have some fruit set before the end of the season. I do still have about 100 days left in my growing season, so there's plenty of time for some fruit production. Just a little bit disappointing that we haven't had any yet. Disappointed in the squash. Last year, I think I was already picking squash by the time June rolled around, and I have literally only picked 3 squash. 2 round zucchini, 1 regular zucchini, and everything else has either died or just hasn't produced anything yet. So again, that's been kind of a bummer. The good things though this year, this is my first year doing garlic. If you watched my last video, you would have seen me harvesting garlic, so I'm really excited about that. Really looking forward to doing some more garlic in the future. This year I had a really great year of cabbage. In previous years, I have never been able to get my cabbages to mature properly. And then for whatever reason this year, maybe again the weather is helping with that. But I had some really great cabbages, so that was really nice. Looking forward to doing more cabbage in the fall. And then my cucumbers are doing really well this year. Last year I did the same 2 varieties and they produced, but then they came down with that kind of powdery mildew faster. Whereas this year, I think because the temperatures have been a little bit cooler, they haven't. They've been hanging on a little bit longer. So that's been nice. But yeah, there's a lot of things that just haven't gone as planned, and I think that's part of our journey as gardeners. I think we honestly can try to plan and prepare for everything, but nature's going to do what nature does, and the weather can be unpredictable. And so I think for us to not necessarily really hang our hats on a particular maybe crop, we're privileged that I can go to the grocery store and go buy some tomatoes, but also to learn how to pivot in these situations. So, I pulled out a bunch of crops just recently. My beans, the things that have been spent, I harvested a bunch of things. I have a lot of empty space in my garden right now that I still have time to fill. So I think if I can pivot and think about things that I know grow well and could do really well in this heat, and maybe even a lot of rain, let's see if I can get another round of crops. Speaking of wins, the beans this year have been really great. I have had tons and tons of harvested beans, green beans. So there's a lot of positives for this year, even though it's been kind of weird with the weather patterns and some of the things have just failed. So I'm not distressed or, downhearted or, or giving up. But gardening in July when the heat cranks up, it's hard. It's really, really hard. And what's scary is August is usually hotter here and more humid. And so knowing that I have at least another month of this kind of weather is a challenge, but I'm looking forward to still growing stuff and coming out in the garden. And who knows, maybe I will even go weed my flower garden over there or just let it be. I mean, it's just a wild, crazy thing at this point. But anyways, thanks again, guys, for joining me in the garden, for taking a look at the garden. I don't know if my audio is picking up, but the cicadas are out in like full force because it is 8:30 right now, and it is the sound of summer. It is a lovely sound of summer. Pretty soon, the bats will be out, and they will be eating my nemesis, the mosquito. If you liked this content, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment down below. Let me know how your gardens are going this month. And feel free to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And if you want to share my video with someone who might enjoy it, that would be great. Until next time, I'll see you guys. Bye. Hear those cicadas? That's how you know summer's here.